On today's show, James Harden had an injury scare last game. Gonna hear from Clipper beat writer Law Murray to give us an update on James and also talk about what the Clippers ceiling can still be with 11 games left in the regular season. Gonna be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, and in my 20th season as a Clipper fan, been covering the team for 5 years on my own personal YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, and 3 here on Locked On Clippers. Make sure you subscribe to both on YouTube, and you can listen to Locked On Clippers wherever you get your podcast, as well as read our Locked On Clippers daily newsletter written by yours truly. Just go to lockedondaily.com for that. And this episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Head on over to Monarch Money and use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. My man Law coming right from New York City to talk about James Harden, a little bit of Kawhi and Norm. Want to get your take on how those guys have progressed and this team. But Law, how we doing, my guy?
Just happy to not be jet lagged. This is an incredible city, especially. Look, I'm from Philadelphia, grew up on the East Coast. I'm always like the best part about traveling is to get to see this side of the country as an adult, man. So I love this trip. This is my favorite trip of the season.
That is awesome. And as someone who's been to the Garden one time, it's just, I'm sure you'd agree, a special energy in there, especially when the Knicks are good. And you'll be there tomorrow for Clippers Knicks. And so James Harden, we saw him have an injury scare last game.
Right.
You had I think it was on Threads. Someone posted it on Twitter. On Threads. And it seemed like James Harden was struggling to walk and didn't look good in the locker room. And now he is listed as questionable for the game against the Knicks. Give us an update on James and, what you were initially saying and what the case is now.
Well, my job is to write and to report. And I know everybody can see the games, what happens on the floor. We got all kinds of broadcast angles and whatnot. Not everybody gets to go in the locker room. Not everybody gets to see how guys are when they're not on camera and everything. James was, first of all, the injury. It's like you had to understand like what happened, and it wasn't as readily apparent watching. Like you see him get hit in the quad by Lou Dort coming off that ball screen and hopping on a foot, and you're thinking he turned his ankle. And James said after the game that it was his foot that was concerned. And me, a a frequent watcher of basketball and James Harden specifically over the course of his career, not just with the LA Clippers. James has been remarkably durable since joining the Clippers. Obviously, this time last year, James had to miss some games. Finally, the Clippers won that battle of getting him to rest for some games. He didn't play in Chicago. He didn't play in New Orleans March of 2024, right? There's some mixed results. The Chicago game was phenomenal. Probably, I think, one of their best offense process games that whole year. Then they look terrible in New Orleans on that end of the floor. So you're automatically thinking, even if he misses one game, the Clippers are 0-3 without James Harden this season. He was not moving like a dude who was going to be able to get on a flight, recover, be able to play. But we also know how stubborn James is. We also know how hard he works. And we also know sometimes you need some luck. James described his injury as a foot injury, something that he's dealt with before. And again, it's like, well, I know what the worst case scenario might be, but hopefully it's not that. And I don't think it is that. He's questionable. I don't think he's dealing with a strain. The team listed him as having foot soreness. He's moving a lot better than he was Sunday night. And that's the whole point. Sunday night, he was not moving well. He's moving better now. And they play Wednesday night in New York. And I got to see him kind of working with Maggie Bryant, Clippers on the Clippers training staff, with some specific movements, running up and down the floor, slides, jumps, that kind of thing. I didn't see James with a ball. It's can James protect himself, number one, and two, can he move like a pro basketball player needs to move in his position? Um, I think he's truly questionable. We'll see if he plays, but I think the worst news it could have been has been avoided.
That's awesome to hear. I mean, do you think we'll see him playing one of these New York games if you had to guess? The Brooklyn, because we play Brooklyn on Friday.
If I had to guess, I'd say that the prognosis would be positive for playing at least one of those games. I will not be surprised if he doesn't play in New York. I'm not surprised with anything with James. Like, James is stubborn and he is dedicated. He's going to work hard to get his body to a point where he can play. And I just am more concerned with Tyronn Lue. Did not sound like someone who is happy with playing James Harden the rest of that game Sunday night, with the lack of what T. Lue called burst, quite frankly, that he had. Like, if you need to not play James for a game or a couple games, then I do think that this team has guys who can step into not James' specific role, but get something done offensively. I think it's going to be hard, which is why you would play James. You play James to say, hey, game plan for this guy. Even James at half speed is better than, say, trying to find an alternative. I'm not sure what the Clippers are going to do on that front, but if I had to guess, I'd say James plays at some point on this road trip.
And speaking of the road trip, I wanted to ask you a question about it. So 4 games, pretty big ones: New York, Brooklyn, Cleveland, and Orlando. In regards to New York and Cleveland, 2 of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, 2 of the better teams in the league. Orlando Magic just beat the Lakers. How big is this stretch, you think, for the Clippers? Like, this is right around that part where we're really battling for playoff positioning, and with the play-in, it makes it every game feel like kind of I don't want to say a must win, but kind of. We can take every we got to get every win we can get.
The playoffs have started early. I know some people don't like March basketball in the NBA because you got teams that are unserious for one reason or another. But the teams right in the middle, this is their time of the year. Because I'll tell you what, those teams in the middle, they'll be happy just to win a playoff series. I think the Clippers are in that category. The Clippers can say what they want to say about, yeah, we think we're special, we can win a title. Like, look, the Clippers haven't won a playoff series since 2021. Winning a playoff series this year would qualify as a very successful season, a very successful spring, especially if Kawhi Leonard is playing through that postseason. These are big games. If you're a fan of basketball in general, you're interested in the Clippers. If you're a fan of the Clippers, you're interested in just like the urgency that comes with these games. Like, you're not getting they're not experimenting. They're trying to win. This is a big road trip because of the fact that it's the last time they're playing any Eastern Conference teams. Any. Like, they're going to come home, and the entire month of April is Western Conference teams. And the Clippers have a pretty bad conference record for a team of their stature. The other part of this trip is the Clippers have a really nice streak that they want to keep alive. They get that 42nd win, and they can say for 14 straight NBA seasons, they have had a winning record. It is already the longest active streak of consecutive winning seasons, and the Clippers are proud of that, and they can achieve that on this trip. So that's the thing to really look out for. They've beaten all these teams already, when they visited Intuit Dome, and so these teams will probably be given a better shot. They beat the Nets by 59 points. Okay, back in January. I guarantee you, Brooklyn will play a better game Friday night. The New York Knicks had to play a very tired basketball game. Ironically, they are once again playing the second night of a back-to-back, but they'll be a lot more rested Wednesday night than they were when they lost Jalen Brunson in overtime earlier this month. Cleveland obviously will be motivated to get their lick back after what happened a week ago. The Orlando Magic, second night of the back-to-back, that's going to be tough. The Magic just beat the Lakers. with LeBron and Luka playing. The Magic are desperate for wins. The Magic are not good offensively, but they're one of the few teams in the league that can say that their defense has been at the level that the Clippers defense has been at. It's going to be a real drag it out fight. So these will be tough games, and the Clippers, I think, it's a good trip for them if they just split the damn thing.
Yeah, 2-2 would be 2-2 would be fine. 3-1 would be great if we just lose to Cleveland. I think without Jalen Brunson, Clippers should go into the game if James Harden plays with the expectation that they should win. But coming up, let's talk about Kawhi Leonard and Norman Powell, two guys returning from injury at different stages. I want to hear your take on the progression of those two guys coming up. I got to tell you a little something about Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stretch. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code Locked On NBA for half off your first year. All right, back here with my man Law Murray of The Athletic, talking about the Clippers with about 11 games left in the season, actually. 11 games left, 40-31 record. Kawhi Leonard, Law, is starting to look like himself. His stats in the month of March are Kawhi Leonard-like stats. How has it been seeing his progression? Obviously, even, I get to go to some games, but you're there all the time at practice, everything, seeing his progression. And do you feel, I mean, just as a basketball person, not just, an optimistic Clipper person, that this, just based on the timeline that he's on, that's different than his normal timeline of coming back, this is looking like the time where Kawhi, if we do get to that postseason, is going to be able to last a full series, potentially?
I mean, I think all that stuff that is related to luck and health is just going to have to continue to rely on that. All I can say is everything leading up to this point has been positive. I wrote about it in December, like him coming back. It's going to be a gradual comeback. It wasn't going to be, oh, Kawhi's going to be amazing immediately. Like he took a long time to debut after he first came to practice. I can't tell you how many road trips I went on being like, this might be the one. This might be the one. I wasn't supposed to go to Dallas and Memphis. I went to Dallas, Memphis because it was like, maybe he's there. It's like, nah, that dude's in the G League. You know what I'm saying? Like, he came back in January, and I was like, he's going to be a role player when he gets back. Like, he's going to play low minutes. They're going to probably call plays for him, but like his workload is not going to be that of what you saw when he was last healthy, March 2024. But I felt like the big thing for February, especially going into the All-Star break, the increase of minutes. Can he stay healthy? He had that little injury with the foot scare. Sounds familiar, right? Wound up missing multiple games. That was unsettling for people because we all know how it is with Kawhi being like, I'm all right. And then he, winds up missing time. And then he comes back and he increases the minutes, stays healthy, starts looking a little bit more like himself, but not quite there. He didn't have a single 10 rebound game in January or February. He had 3 30-point games in January, 3 30-point games in February. What happens in March? First game they play in March, he drops 33 in Los Angeles against the Lakers. They lose that game, but he's repeated that. He scored 20 points, I think 9 times in March. I don't look at minutes anymore with him. Like, he can play whatever minutes is needed to win a game. I don't look at who he's guarding. Well, who he's guarding is important just in general, but I don't look at who he's guarding as far as, oh, you need to protect Kawhi Leonard, right? Like, I think there are some people who still think that guarding bigger bodies as a basketball player is going to put you more at risk for certain injuries, even though like everyone has pretty much said that that's like not the case. Like, no, they won't want Kawhi guarding the biggest bodies. I see Kawhi guarding small guards more often than not. It's basketball. You're going to wind up guarding some guys at some point. But that dude has been more active. The rebounds,
Yeah.
rebounds is a big activity stat. He's got 3 10 rebound games this month after having none going into March. And all of those 10 rebound games have been accompanied by at least 20 points. That's an all NBA player. Simple as that. You know, an all NBA player is the kind of player that has been putting up the production that Kawhi has, along with winning games and improving your team. Like, the team was terrible coming out of All-Star break, losing 6 out of 7 for a variety of reasons. You know, you can talk about, oh, we weren't healthy. Well, no one waits for you to be healthy in this league. Okay. Like, they don't say, hey, you guys aren't healthy. We'll catch you next week. You know, let's play the game. You guys get,
Yeah.
you get 5 players to put on the floor and you get some guys on the bench. You're all pros. Figure it out. You know, I think the Clippers are coming together. Kawhi's coming together. And you just hope that that's the team that gets into the playoffs and gets through a postseason.
Yeah, I mean, having Kawhi Leonard, first season fully healthy in the playoffs in front of the fans would be the first season in the Intuit Dome would be an amazing treat for everybody and just basketball fans everywhere to see a healthy Kawhi Leonard, even if it means we lose in the first round. At least get to see it, and it won't be an easy. If it's healthy Kawhi Leonard, it won't be an easy first round out. That's for sure. Now let me ask you about Norm, because he's now in that trying to get back to what he was early on in the season stage after an injury, and he looks like he's regained a little bit of that burst, a little bit of that trying to get to the basket with aggression, but his three ball and his jumper have not quite returned yet. What do you make of Norm's form and how he kind of fits back into the equation, given that we haven't really seen the all-star candidate version of Norm with the Kawhi Leonard that we want as well together? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's the sacrifice. And I'm not sure. Honestly, there's only so many possessions in the game, so I don't think you're going to get it from a volume standpoint. Like, Norm was cooking at a time where Kawhi was playing his first basketball in like half a year, more than half a year. Like, Norm was rolling. He was playing at a high level. Norm effectively missed a month of basketball because when he came back, he lasted 1 quarter. So, like, he was great. He was great in Utah. That was an incredibly tough and inspirational performance. 41 points on the second night of back-to-back on the road, just coming back down from 20 points because you wanted to win. Because you simply were like, we want this win before All-Star break. It took a toll. It took a toll. Like, everyone wants to be like, oh, Norman Powell went to shoot threes at the three-point line. It's like, shooting threes ain't nothing. You know what really is something is when you play 45 minutes in altitude to try and win your team a game. You know, I think Norm probably would, his knee wouldn't be as sore if he would have took that game off, you know, if he wasn't feeling 100%. So that's the thing that I look at. Like, that dude was playing at such a high level, such a necessary level. I mean, he took 26 shots in that game. He's only taken like 40 shots in these last 4 games that he's played and been back. And I just feel like he's going to have to find his shot more than find his appetite for scoring at a high level. Like, Bogdanovich got his confidence. Bogey, it took him a while, but you know, that dude has found his confidence and found his way. You have a lot of guys, and hoping that they can all play this at the highest level. It's like you just gotta kind of let the game come to you. And I'm excited for this road trip for Norm because, you know, depending on how James is feeling, like, there might be an opportunity for him to have to step up. But I think that he's just getting used to it. The game against the Thunder, not only did he play his most minutes, but he also was playing against the best defense in basketball, to my estimation. Like, they hit. I think physicality is the thing that throws shooters off the most, and the Thunder, they're so good defensively because they're physical. They don't have any rust stops. So I'm waiting to see if Norm can hit multiple threes in the game for the first time since that Utah game, and that'll be your biggest sign. Okay, I think Norm can hop himself into the lane. The finishing will go how it goes. He can get himself to the line. He had some success there, not against the Thunder, unfortunately. Um, but I think they need Norm to make shots, whether they're created for him or calls, plays a call for him, or whether he just happens to be in the right spot and he's the recipient of drive, kick, swing. And we'll see what that looks like. Get all that stuff out your system before the playoffs in April.
And speaking of which, this is probably the last time I'm going to talk to you, at least before the playoffs start. So I want to talk about what the potential ceiling of this team could be and what the picture we're looking at is these last 11 games and the standings. All right. Law, let's take a look now. 11 games left. This is probably the last time I'll talk to you until I don't even know. You're such a busy guy during the playoffs. I become really busy during the playoffs. So I don't want to say it's the last time this season. But regular season, most likely, we'll see in the playoffs. Hopefully we're in them. But let's talk about that very topic. So the James Harden thing is a little concerning, obviously. But let's just say, for the sake of being on the optimistic side, that with the fact that he's questionable for these games, he comes back on this road trip. Now, we know that Kawhi Leonard is probably going to miss a couple of these games, given that we have a back-to-back on April 4th and 5th against Dallas at Intuit Dome. I would assume he's going to miss one of those. And then also San Antonio and Houston, that's also at Intuit Dome, and Cleveland and Orlando. So I'm assuming you're also thinking he's going to miss one of those Cleveland or Orlando games, right?
You're talking about Kawhi?
Yeah.
Kawhi, yes.
So if we don't have James Harden back, we could be looking at a game against Cleveland without Kawhi or Harden. Honestly, if we're going to rest Kawhi, I would probably just rest him against the Cavs. Just because, you know what I mean? Instead of the Magic.
I think that's how a lot of people will see it. And I think it'll be interesting to see how New York goes. They're not going to tip they could tip their hand. I'm interested to see how it goes because honestly, it's like, do you try and beat a team because I think the bigger factor is how early the game in Cleveland is. That is an afternoon start compared to Orlando, which is a Monday night start. I think the other factor is it's a 5-7, and I think they're going to have to really consider how, in general, they're going to get through this 5-7 stretch. Like, you got a back-to-back, you come home, you play a home game against, I believe, the Pelicans. Then you have a mini series against the Mavericks, who the Clippers probably would have preferred to play Mavericks earlier this month. Now,
yeah, I was going to say, you don't know what you're getting playing against Dallas right now.
Right, and Dallas is obviously as desperate as it gets. So, I just feel like Kawhi's going to probably miss one of those Mavericks games as well.
Yeah,
it's back to back, and like that's what a 5-7 is. It's back to back, day off, game, day off, back to back. Tough stretch. It is what it is. If I'm the Clippers, it's like, yeah, you probably just focus on trying to play guys in Orlando, but you're trying to win. You're trying to win. You already beat the Cavs. Like, just go out there and figure it out. So I don't really have a dog in a fight in terms of, hey, you should play him against him. It's like there's pros and cons to both. You're trying to win no matter who's on the floor.
Yeah. The Orlando game will be a very interesting one. So in a perfect world, let's say we get the best version of Norm that we can get with this team. As you said, it's not going to be 22 points a game, but if you had to choose what the great balance what the best balance would be for, let's say, the four best players, points per game, the best version of this team, what would you ideally see it as? And I'll let you know how far off it is from mine. like Kawhi, Harden, Zoo, and Norm. A good balance.
You mean offense or 5-man lineups?
No. Like just I guess their points per game, each of them. A nice scoring balance.
Wow.
Yeah, with the four of them at their best, but given the parameters of the sacrifice you need to make it work.
I think the hardest part about that is how much point total is going to come from the flow of the game. Like, you don't want guys chasing a point total.
No, yeah,
You want to score on every possession. You know what I mean? And
I would say
and
I would not say this as a coach or anybody on the staff. I'm just talking about as like,
right.
fan to basketball person just analyzing it all. Because for me, Kawhi, I don't want to say like you got to score 25 points a game, but in my opinion, for the Clippers, let's say we were trying to beat OKC, for example, I would think that Kawhi needs to average above 25 points per game. He's got to be close to SGA, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. And then James Harden around, I'd say 20. And then Zoo maybe 18, and then Norm around 18. Is that a lot? That's a lot, huh?
It feels like a lot.
They can do it within the flow, in my opinion. I mean, it's obviously it's gonna be different games, but that's my average in an ideal
it's like
world.
this. If you're playing OKC, like, yeah, you want to score as a team, but like, I'm not looking at James' points as an indicator of how well he handles the Thunder and what that means for the Clippers' success. I'm looking at turnovers.
Okay.
He turns the ball over against OKC because OKC has several guys who are not afraid to pressure him and be physical with him. We saw that physicality Sunday night. Like, besides the fact that he got hurt, it was the first game all month he had more turnovers than buckets. That is bad on a scoring level, but it also speaks to how many of those turnovers were damaging for the Clippers, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, if James scores 25 points, cool. But if he scores 25 points and mixes that in with 5 turnovers, you're not surviving that probably. Kawhi can score a bunch of points. He scored a bunch of points against them Sunday night. So it's great that he scored 25 points, but who does Kawhi guard? I look at that, can he be efficient with those 25? Or is Kawhi the only guy who can score 25 because like he's the only guy who doesn't have a bad matchup? Because Thunder, there ain't a lot of bad matchups. So you're not hunting a lot of guys on OKC's rotation. Norm, I will say, you probably want Norm, hey, if he scores 20 a game, it's probably a good thing. But you need Norm hitting threes. You need that dude to hit threes if he's sharing the floor with James, high volume Kawhi, and Zoo. And as far as Zoo, it's like, yeah, it would be nice to get 20. It would be nice to get 10 rebounds. But it's like, also, can Zoo just simply survive on the floor playing against that heavy drive style that OKC plays? It's not the question you asked. I think point total is a much easier indication of that guy's having a good game. But I think for the Clippers, it's like, do you want individuals to have good games, or do you want those individuals to contribute to winning? And I think points is not. I'm just saying, I will be looking at other things besides points for all of those guys.
No, yeah. So, I mean, I never use points or a sole metric as, like an indicator of performance. I was more saying if we get the best version of this team somehow.
Right.
Yeah, ideally. But anyway.
Ideally, someone else beats the Thunder before the Clippers have to see them.
Yeah, hopefully.
I've seen that matchup 4 times.
Right. Let's look at the standings right now. We are in the 7th spot right now, which is nice because yesterday we were the 8th, so it keeps fluctuating between Minnesota and the Clippers, but also the Warriors. They are only half a game above the Clippers, 41-31. Clippers are 41-31. What's very key there is that we own the tiebreaker with them. Now, the Warriors scheduled to end the season, I'm taking a look at it right now. They've got New Orleans and San Antonio on the road coming up. Both those teams have, been hampered by injuries. And then Memphis, they're on a 4-game road trip. New Orleans, San Antonio, Memphis, the Lakers. I mean, where do you think the Clippers are going to finish? You've probably looked into these other teams' schedules more than I have. Where do you think the Clippers are going to finish, and how important is it for them to get the 7th seed? I saw was it you that made a comment about the 7 seeds have always made it out, or is that someone else? Probably someone else.
Yeah, it was someone else. That's definitely not something I'm thinking about right now.
The 7th seed has never lost a play-in, apparently, Law.
I mean, the 7th seed has dropped to the 8 that's happened.
Yeah, and we don't want that with OKC. Definitely not.
Yeah, so it's nice that the seventh seed hasn't completely missed the playoffs, but history only matters until I mean, like I don't think the bottom line is the Clippers and a lot of those dudes on that team have already experienced the play-in tournament before, and they've already seen the worst that a play-in tournament has to offer. And I think they're going to be in it. It's not going to make anyone happy, but once they're in it, I do think that their team is set to survive it one way or the other. And that's what they just have to do if they can't lock up a top six. And look, top six is not up to them. They need losses from other teams. They don't control their own destiny there, but they control whatever happens, with their opportunity. They need to focus on themselves, speaking of coach speak, and say your prayers and take your vitamins, man. That's it.
Yeah, well, let them know where they can find you, man. So we haven't been seeing you on Twitter. So you're off Twitter permanently. You're off it's too toxic these days.
I never said anything about that.
All right, well, we haven't seen you on there.
I haven't, but
Might make
I'm
a return.
active. I'm active on where I need to be active, and the
fair
most
enough.
important place to be active is at the Athletic. We writing, and I've been busy, so that's the most important thing.
No Threads plug?
I mean, Threads is cool, I guess. Blue Sky is cool, I guess. All of social media is secondary for me to writing. Like
There we go.
that's always going to be the most important thing.
Love to hear it. All right, my guy. Thank you so much for making the time as always. And safe travels. Best of luck. Everybody else, make sure you go check out Law's work in the Athletic. He does great work for us. And of course, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Clippers and sign up for the Locked On Clippers newsletter at lockedondaily.com. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers.